Welcome to ancient Pompeii, a thriving Roman city frozen in time by the catastrophic eruption of Mount Vesuvius. For the next few hours, we will walk the streets of this prosperous town as it was in the days before disaster, experiencing the daily rhythms of Roman life, the markets and bathhouses, the homes and workshops, the temples and taverns that made Pompeii a vibrant community. If you enjoy these immersive journeys through history, please like and subscribe to support our channel. The year is 79 CE, and Pompeii is enjoying a period of prosperity and peace. The city sits on the Bay of Naples, about 5 miles from the looming presence of Mount Vesuvius, which the inhabitants know simply as the mountain. They do not know it is a volcano. That word will not be coined until much later. To them, it is merely a mountain, its slopes covered with vineyards producing excellent wine, its shape a familiar landmark visible from every street. The city awakens early, as all Roman cities do. Dawn comes with the crowing of roosters, the barking of dogs, and the gradual stirring of a population of perhaps 12,000 souls. Pompeii is not Rome, it is a provincial city, prosperous but not grand, known for its fish sauce production and its fertile agricultural land, rather than for political power or cultural sophistication. Let us begin our day in the house of Marcus Vesonius Primus, a wealthy merchant who has made his fortune in the garum trade. Garum is fermented fish sauce, a condiment beloved throughout the Roman world, and Pompeii's garum is considered among the finest. Marcus owns workshops where this pungent product is manufactured, and he has used his wealth to acquire a fine house in one of the better neighborhoods of the city. The house is built in the traditional Roman style, organized around a central atrium, a reception hall open to the sky through a rectangular opening called the compluvium. Rainwater falls through this opening into a shallow pool below, the impluvium, which collects water for household use. The house has no windows facing the street. Roman houses turn inward, presenting blank walls to the public world, while reserving beauty and comfort for the private interior. Marcus awakens in his cubiculum, a small bedroom off the atrium. Romans do not have large bedrooms. They sleep in small, cell-like rooms just large enough for a bed and perhaps a small chest for personal items. The bed itself is a simple wooden frame with leather straps supporting a mattress stuffed with wool or straw. Marcus sleeps alone. His wife Cornelia has her own cubiculum, as is common among wealthy Romans. Marriage is primarily an economic and social institution, and while affection may develop, separate sleeping arrangements are the norm. He rises and pulls on a tunic, a simple knee-length garment that is the basic clothing for all Roman men. His tunic is made of fine linen, befitting his status, and it is clean and unstained. Over this, he will later wear a toga when he goes out, for a Roman citizen of his class must wear the toga in public spaces, though it is cumbersome and uncomfortable in the warm Italian climate. Marcus makes his way to the small latrina, the toilet, attached to the house. This is a simple stone bench with a hole, beneath which runs a channel carrying waste away to the city's sewer system. Pompeii has an advanced infrastructure for its time, with paved streets, an aqueduct bringing fresh water, public fountains, and sewers. The latrina provides running water in a small channel in front of the seat, used for cleaning with a tersorium, a sponge on a stick, shared by the household. After attending to his needs, Marcus washes his face and hands in cold water from a basin. Romans do not bathe at home if they can avoid it. Bathing is a social activity, conducted at the public baths. He does not shave. He will visit the tonsor, the barber, later in the day for a shave and haircut, turning grooming into a social occasion where news and gossip are exchanged. By now, the household is stirring. Cornelia emerges from her cubiculum, and they exchange formal morning greetings. Their relationship is cordial, but not particularly warm. They have been married for 15 years, an arrangement between their families that has produced 2 children and maintained both families' social standing. Love, in the modern sense, is not something Romans expect from marriage, though it may develop. Their slaves are already at work. Marcus's household includes perhaps 10 slaves, ranging from the educated Greek slave Philippus, who manages the household accounts, to the young girl Lucia, who does the cleaning, to the cook Gaius, who is preparing the morning meal. Slavery is the foundation of the Roman economy, and even moderately prosperous families own several slaves. Marcus treats his slaves reasonably well by Roman standards. He does not beat them often. He provides adequate food and clothing, and he has promised Philippus that he will be freed after several more years of service. The morning meal is simple. Bread dipped in wine, perhaps some cheese or olives, fresh fruit if available. Romans do not eat elaborate breakfasts. The main meal of the day is the cena, eaten in the late afternoon. Breakfast is merely fuel to start the day. As Marcus eats in the atrium, he reviews his plans for the day. He must visit his garum workshops to check on production. He has a meeting with another merchant to discuss a joint shipping venture. He needs to make an appearance at the forum, showing his face in public, as is expected of men of his class. And he plans to spend the afternoon at the baths, both for cleanliness and for the social opportunities they provide. His son, also named Marcus, but known as Quintus to distinguish him from his father, joins them in the atrium. The boy is 14, at that awkward age between childhood and manhood. He has been studying with a grammaticus, a teacher of literature and rhetoric, learning Greek and Latin literature, developing the speaking and writing skills necessary for a Roman gentleman. His education is designed not to prepare him for a specific profession, but to cultivate the general abilities expected of his class. Daughter Julia, who is 12, remains in the women's quarters with her mother. Girls are not educated like boys. Julia will learn household management, weaving, and the social skills necessary for making a good marriage. Her education comes from her mother and from the household slaves who teach her practical skills. Marcus finishes his meal and prepares to leave the house. He wraps himself in his toga, a complicated process requiring the help of a slave to arrange the heavy wool fabric in the proper draping. The toga is the mark of a Roman citizen, and wearing it correctly is important for maintaining dignity and status. It is also deeply impractical. Hot in summer, restrictive of movement, easily soiled, but it is required for any man of Marcus's class appearing in public. Before leaving, he stops at the Lararium, a small shrine in the atrium dedicated to the household gods, the Lares and Penates who protect the family and home. He makes a brief offering, a prayer for the day's success, a gesture of piety that is as much about maintaining proper form as about genuine religious feeling. Romans are religious in a practical, transactional way. They honor the gods and expect favors in return. Stepping out of his house, Marcus enters the streets of Pompeii. The morning is already warm, though it is only the beginning of August. The street is narrow, perhaps 12 feet wide, paved with large polygonal stones. Deep wheel ruts show where countless carts have passed, and stepping stones allow pedestrians to cross without stepping in the mud, animal waste, and refuse that accumulates between cleanings. The street is already busy, their owners rolling up or removing the wooden shutters that closed them overnight. A baker is setting out fresh loaves on a counter. A fuller, a launderer and cloth finisher, is arranging clean togas for customer pickup. A metalworker's hammer rings from a shop, and the smell of hot metal drifts into the street. Marcus walks toward the Forum, the city's central square and the heart of its commercial and civic life. The streets he passes through are lined with shops on the ground floor, living quarters above. The shops spin out into the street, vendors calling their wares, goods displayed on counters and in the street itself, narrowing the already narrow passages. He passes a thermopolium, a snack bar selling hot food and drink to those who cannot or do not wish to cook at home. The counter has large clay jars embedded in it, containing food kept warm by coals beneath. The smell of cooking, olive oil, wine, spices, fills the air. A few customers stand at the counter, eating a quick meal before starting their day's work. Further along, he passes a Phalonica, a larger establishment for cleaning and finishing cloth. The smell is powerful. Urine is used in the cleaning process, collected from public urinals placed throughout the city. Romans do not find this disgusting. Urine's ammonia is effective for cleaning wool, and the fullers are respectable businessmen, providing an essential service. A group of slaves pass carrying amphorae, large clay jars for transporting wine, oil, or garum. They move in practiced coordination, their bare feet slapping on the stone pavement. These slaves belong to a merchant house, and they are transporting goods from warehouse to port, or from port to shop. Pompeii's location on the Bay of Naples makes it a center of trade, and such scenes are common. Marcus arrives at the Forum, a large rectangular open space surrounded by temples, government buildings, and covered porticos where shops and offices are located. The Forum is already busy with people, merchants conducting business, politicians greeting supporters, priests attending to temple duties, citizens simply socializing. The Forum is where Pompeii conducts its public life. Elections are held here. Important announcements are made here. Religious festivals are celebrated here. It is also where business deals are negotiated, where news and gossip circulate, where a man of standing must show his face to maintain his social position. Marcus greets several acquaintances, a ritual exchange of pleasantries, inquiries about health and family, nothing substantive but socially necessary. He pauses at a taberna, a small wine shop, where several men are already drinking despite the early hour. Romans drink wine at all times of day, usually diluted with water, sometimes heated and spiced. To drink undiluted wine is considered barbaric, something only drunkards do. He joins a conversation about local politics. There is an upcoming election for the duumviri, the two chief magistrates who govern Pompeii. Several candidates are campaigning actively, and electoral slogans are painted on walls throughout the city. These slogans range from serious endorsements by respected citizens to humorous or sarcastic comments. One famous graffito reads, "The petty thieves support Vatia for Adile." Whether this is sincere or satirical is unclear. Roman politics at the local level are intensely personal. Candidates are known to everyone, their families, their reputations, their business dealings. Elections are not about abstract policies, but about which man can be trusted with authority, who will be generous with public funds for games and festivals, who will maintain the city's infrastructure and negotiate skillfully with Rome's central government. Marcus himself has considered seeking office, but has hesitated. Holding office is expensive. Magistrates are expected to fund public works and entertainments from their own pockets, though the honor and prestige can be worth the cost for the ambitious. He has the wealth, but is not sure he wants the burden. After an hour in the Forum, Marcus leaves to visit his garum workshops, which are located near the city walls, where the smell will not offend the residents of better neighborhoods. The walk takes him through less prosperous areas, where the streets are narrower, the buildings more crowded, the poverty more visible. He passes a lupanar, a brothel, identifiable by the phallic symbol carved above the door. Brothels are legal and common in Pompeii, regulated by city authorities and taxed like any other business. The women who work there are mostly slaves, though some are freed women who have chosen this occupation as a means of support. Romans do not particularly stigmatize prostitution, viewing it as a service like any other, though they would certainly not want their own daughters working in such establishments. Graffiti covers the walls of the lupanar and surrounding buildings. Names, dates, boasts about sexual prowess, prices, customers' reviews of particular women. Pompeii's walls are covered with graffiti, electoral slogans, advertisements, personal messages, crude jokes, declarations of love, insults. The city's walls serve as a massive public bulletin board, constantly updated. Marcus reaches his workshops and spends the next hour checking on operations. The production of garum is complex and time-consuming. Fish, usually small fish like anchovies, though any fish will do, are layered with salt in large clay vessels and left to ferment in the sun for months. The mixture is stirred periodically, and gradually the fish break down into a liquid that is then filtered and sold as garum, while the solid residue is sold as a cheaper product called alec. The smell is overpowering. Fermented fish is not pleasant, but Marcus is accustomed to it. This smell is the source of his wealth. Garum is used in nearly every Roman dish, the way soy sauce is used in Asian cooking today, and high-quality garum commands high prices throughout the empire. He discusses production with his foreman, a freedman named Felix who has worked in the garum trade his entire life. The current batch is progressing well, and they discuss when it will be ready for filtering and bottling. They also discuss prices. Garum prices fluctuate based on quality and availability, and timing the market correctly can mean the difference between good profit and extraordinary profit. Business concluded, Marcus begins the walk back toward the center of town. It is late morning now, and the sun is high and hot. The streets are crowded, the shops busy, the city fully engaged in its daily commerce. This is Pompeii at its most vibrant, a working city, a trading city, a place where people make their livings and build their lives, unaware that in just a few days, everything will end. By midday, the heat of the August sun has become oppressive, and Marcus decides to visit the Stabian Baths, one of Pompeii's 3 public bathing complexes. The baths are not just about cleanliness, they are social centers where business is conducted, news is exchanged, and the community gathers. A Roman gentleman of Marcus's class visits the baths almost daily, spending hours there in a combination of bathing, exercise, and socializing. The Stabian Baths occupy an entire city block, a large complex with separate sections for men and women. The entrance fee is minimal, a quadrans, the smallest Roman coin, making the baths accessible to nearly everyone. This democratic aspect of Roman bath culture is one of its most remarkable features. Here, the wealthy merchant bathes alongside the shopkeeper, the freedman, even prosperous slaves whose masters allow them this privilege. Marcus enters the men's section and proceeds to the apoditarium, the changing room. The room has niches in the walls where bathers can leave their clothing, though theft is common enough that wealthier patrons often bring a slave to watch their possessions. Marcus is accompanied by his slave Davus, who will guard his toga and tunic while he bathes. The changing room's walls are decorated with frescoes, erotic scenes that are common in Roman art and cause no embarrassment. Roman attitudes toward nudity and sexuality are quite different from later European culture. The human body is not shameful, and sexual imagery is displayed openly in both public and private spaces. These paintings serve partly as decoration, partly as good luck charms, and partly as simple entertainment. Marcus removes his clothing and wraps a towel around his waist. Romans do bathe naked, but the towel is used for sitting and for modesty while moving between rooms. He proceeds to the palaestra, an open exercise yard surrounded by columns. Here, men engage in various physical activities before bathing: running, wrestling, ball games, weightlifting with stone or lead weights. Exercise is considered essential for maintaining health and vigor. Roman medicine, influenced by Greek theories, emphasizes the balance of bodily humors and the importance of physical activity. Marcus is not particularly athletic at his age, but he spends some time doing light exercises, stretching, and engaging in conversation with other bathers. The palaestra is where much of the socializing happens. Men discuss business, politics, family matters, and gossip. A young man seeking advancement might catch the attention of an older patron here. Deals are struck, partnerships are formed, friendships are maintained. The informal nature of the setting, naked men engaged in exercise, creates a different dynamic than the formal encounters of the forum. After exercising, Marcus moves to the tepidarium, the warm room. This is a transitional space between the cold and hot rooms, where the body can adjust gradually to temperature changes. The room is heated by hot air circulating beneath the raised floor and through spaces in the walls, the hypokos system that Romans have perfected. The temperature is pleasant, warm but not uncomfortable. Here, Marcus encounters Lucius Caecilius, a banker and one of Pompeii's wealthiest citizens. They exchange greetings and fall into conversation about the shipping venture Marcus is considering. Caecilius is interested in investing, and they discuss terms: how much capital each will contribute, how profits will be divided, what routes the ships will take, what cargoes they will carry. This is how much Roman business is conducted, not in offices, but in social settings where formal business discussions blend seamlessly with casual conversation. The bath complex provides the perfect setting for such negotiations, combining privacy with social acceptability, allowing men to see each other as equals regardless of the wealth disparities that exist outside. From the tepidarium, Marcus proceeds to the caldarium, the hot room. This is the warmest room in the baths, with both hot air and hot water. Large bronze basins contain hot water for washing, and the floor is so hot that wooden clogs are provided to prevent burning feet. The heat is intense, and most bathers do not stay long, but the sweating is considered healthy, opening the pores and cleansing the body. Marcus scoops water from the basin using a small bronze bowl and pours it over himself, washing away the sweat and dirt of the day. He uses a strigil, a curved metal scraper, to scrape oil and dirt from his skin. Romans do not use soap as we know it. Instead, they coat themselves with olive oil and then scrape it off, taking dirt and dead skin with it. The sound of strigils scraping skin is constant in the caldarium, mixing with the murmur of conversation and the splash of water. After the heat of the caldarium, Marcus moves to the frigidarium, the cold room. This room contains a large pool of cold water, fed by the aqueduct. The shock of cold after intense heat is invigorating, and the Romans believe it has health benefits, closing the pores and strengthening the body. Marcus plunges in briefly, gasping at the cold, then emerges refreshed. The bathing sequence, exercise, warm room, hot room, cold plunge, is a ritual that structures the visit, but it is merely the framework around which socializing occurs. Between rooms, in the pools, in the changing areas, conversations continue. News spreads. Deals are made, friendships are maintained, and the social fabric of Pompeii is woven and rewoven. Marcus finishes his bath and returns to the apoditarium where Davus has guarded his clothing. He dresses, feeling clean and refreshed. Before leaving, he stops at a small taberna within the bath complex, where wine and light food are sold to bathers. He drinks a cup of honeyed wine and eats a few dates, chatting with an acquaintance about the upcoming gladiatorial games. Gladiatorial contests are scheduled for next month, sponsored by one of the candidates for Duumvir. The games are popular entertainment and an important way for politicians to curry favor with voters. The announcement has generated excitement throughout the city, and speculation about which gladiators will fight is a common topic of conversation. Leaving the bars, Marcus walks toward the Macellum, the meat and fish market. His wife Cornelia has requested he purchase fish for the evening meal, and the Macellum is where the best quality is available. The walk takes him through the Forum, which is even more crowded now than it was in the morning. Street vendors have set up in the Forum's colonnade, selling everything from fresh bread to bronze utensils to charms and amulets. Beggars work the crowd, some genuinely destitute, others perhaps making a decent living from the charity of passers-by. A snake charmer performs with a large serpent, drawing a small crowd of onlookers. A man reads fortunes, consulting a trained bird that picks out written messages from a box. The Forum's temples are busy with worshippers. The Temple of Jupiter dominates the north end of the Forum, a grand structure with columns and steps, housing a statue of the King of Gods. People come and go, making offerings, seeking divine favor for business ventures or family matters, or simply fulfilling routine religious obligations. Religion permeates Roman life, but it is practical rather than mystical. Romans honor the gods and expect favors in return. They do not expect personal relationships with deities or mystical experiences. Religion is about maintaining proper relations with divine powers through correct ritual, not about faith or belief in the modern sense. Marcus reaches the Macellum, a covered market building in the southeast corner of the Forum. The interior is a large open space with a central pavilion, surrounded by shops and stalls selling meat, fish, and other foodstuffs. The smell is powerful: raw meat, fish, blood, and offal, mixed with herbs and spices. The fish stall displays the day's catch, fish from the Bay of Naples, still fresh. Marcus examines the selection, engaging in the ritual bargaining with the fishmonger. The posted prices are merely starting points for negotiation, and a skilled shopper can often secure a reduction, especially if purchasing for a large household. Marcus selects several fish, enough for his household, plus extra for the household slaves. Romans do not generally underfeed their slaves, recognizing that well-fed slaves work better and are less likely to sicken or die, representing a loss of valuable property. The fishmonger wraps the purchase in leaves, and Marcus hands the package to Davus to carry home. Near the fish stalls, butchers sell meat, pork, lamb, and occasionally beef, though cattle are too valuable as working animals to slaughter often. The meat is fresh, there is no refrigeration, so animals are slaughtered as needed, and meat must be consumed quickly. A cut of meat hanging in a shop in the morning will be sold or will spoil by evening. As Marcus completes his purchase, he hears raised voices from one corner of the Macellum. Two vendors are arguing about stall placement, each claiming the other has encroached on his allocated space. Such disputes are common in the crowded market, and they are usually settled by appeal to the aediles, the magistrates responsible for maintaining public order and infrastructure. This particular dispute escalates, with insults being exchanged, threatening to turn into physical confrontation. A crowd gathers, some supporting one vendor, some the other, some merely enjoying the spectacle. Before violence can occur, however, city guards appear and separate the disputants, promising that the matter will be brought before the magistrates for resolution. Such scenes are part of daily life in Pompeii. The city is crowded, competition is fierce, and tempers run hot under the August sun. But there are systems for managing conflict: the guards, the courts, the magistrates, that generally keep order without need for excessive force. Marcus leaves the Macellum and makes his way toward the fuller's shop, where he left his best toga to be cleaned several days ago. The fuller, whose name is Veracundus, operates one of the larger fulonicae in Pompeii, employing several slaves and freedmen in the process of cleaning, bleaching, and finishing cloth. The Follonica is identifiable by the large vats in front, where cloth is trampled by workers who dance on it in a mixture of water, urine, and various cleaning agents. The workers sing as they tread, keeping rhythm, and the sound drifts into the street. Inside, more vats are used for different stages of the cleaning process, and racks hold cloth drying in the sun that streams through the open roof. Verecundus greets Marcus personally, recognizing a good customer, showing the deference expected from a tradesman to a wealthy patron, while maintaining his own dignity as a successful businessman. He produces Marcus's toga, cleaned and finished, the white wool gleaming. The toga is one of Marcus's most expensive possessions, and proper maintenance is essential. A shabby toga would reflect poorly on his status. Marcus examines the toga carefully, checking for any remaining stains or damage from the cleaning process. Satisfied, he pays the agreed price, a few sestertii, and arranges for Davos to return later to collect it. Carrying a toga through the streets would be undignified, and in any case, Marcus does not need it immediately. As afternoon advances, Marcus decides to visit the shop of a friend, Publius, who sells fine pottery and glass. The shop is located on one of the main streets, its front open to display goods. Publius specializes in high-quality items, delicate glass bowls from Syria, fine red gloss pottery from Gaul, elegant oil lamps in elaborate designs. The two men greet each other warmly and settle into conversation. Publius offers wine, and they sit in the shop's interior, away from the heat and bustle of the street, discussing business, family, and the state of the city. This is friendship in the Roman mode, based on mutual advantage as much as affection, cemented by regular interaction and reciprocal favors. Publius mentions that he has acquired some exceptional glass pieces, blue glass bowls with white decoration, made using techniques that are closely guarded secrets. He knows Marcus appreciates fine objects, and he offers a good price, recognizing that Marcus's purchase will signal the quality of the goods to other potential buyers. Marcus examines the glasswork, admiring the skill involved in its production. Romans prize glass highly. It is expensive, beautiful, and somewhat exotic, coming from specialized workshops in the Eastern Mediterranean. He negotiates a price and purchases 2 bowls, which will enhance his dining room and impress guests. As they talk, the shop slave brings out a tray of small food items: olives, cheese, bread, dried fruit. This casual hospitality is expected, part of the social ritual of visiting. Publius asks after Marcus's family, discusses his own children's education, complains mildly about taxes and regulations. Such conversations are how information circulates in Pompeii. No newspapers exist, no internet, no television. News and gossip spread through personal networks, through conversations in shops and baths, in the forum and at dinner parties. Everyone is both consumer and transmitter of information, creating a rich oral culture that binds the community together. As the sun begins its descent toward the western horizon, Marcus prepares to return home. The afternoon has been productive, business discussed, social connections maintained, necessary purchases made. He has fulfilled the expectations of his class and position, shown his face in public, demonstrated his prosperity through appropriate consumption. The walk home takes him through streets that are beginning to quiet as the hottest part of the day passes. Shops are still open, but the frantic activity of midday has subsided. People move more slowly, conversations are less hurried. The city is preparing for evening, when the cena, the main meal, will be eaten and families will gather in their homes. Marcus reaches his house and steps through the front door into the atrium, where cooler air and familiar surroundings welcome him. He has been out for most of the day, as is typical for Roman men of his class. The house is where he sleeps and entertains, but public spaces are where he lives most of his waking hours. Cornelia greets him, inquiring about his day. He hands over the fish he purchased, discusses the business arrangements he made, mentions the fine glass he acquired. She reports on household matters, the weaving that has been completed, the inventory of supplies, minor issues with slaves that she has resolved. Their relationship is partnership, more than romance, each managing their sphere of responsibility, coordinating efforts to maintain the household and family status. It works well enough, producing the results that Roman marriage is designed to produce: legitimate children, managed property, maintained social position. As evening approaches, The household prepares for the cena, the day's main meal, which will bring the family together and structure the transition from day to night, from public to private life. The evening meal, the cena, is the most important meal of the Roman day, and in Marcus's household, preparations have been underway since late afternoon. The kitchen, located in a separate area behind the atrium to keep smoke and cooking smells away from the main living spaces, is busy with activity. Gaius, the household cook, is a slave who has worked in this kitchen for 15 years. He knows the family's preferences, understands the intricacies of Roman cooking, and takes pride in his skill. Tonight he is preparing a relatively simple meal by wealthy standards. Nothing like the elaborate banquets with dozens of courses that Marcus occasionally hosts for important guests, but more than the basic fare of ordinary citizens. The fish Marcus purchased at the market is being prepared in several ways. Some is being grilled over charcoal, seasoned with herbs from the household garden, coriander, rue, and silphium, a now extinct herb prized by Romans for its flavor. Other portions are being made into a stew with leeks and wine. Fish is a staple of the Pompeian diet, given the city's proximity to the sea, and Gaius knows many ways to prepare it. Accompanying the fish will be vegetables, cabbage, onions and carrots cooked in olive oil and garum. A pulse, a porridge of emmer wheat, will provide bulk to the meal. For dessert, there will be fresh fruit, figs, grapes and pears from local orchards, and a sweet pastry drizzled with honey. The dining room, the triclinium, is being prepared by household slaves. This room is one of the finest in the house, its walls decorated with elaborate frescoes showing mythological scenes. The floor is mosaic, depicting marine life, fish, dolphins, octopi, in intricate colored tilework. Such decorations are status symbols, demonstrating the household's wealth and cultural sophistication. The room is arranged with 3 couches, klein, positioned around 3 sides of a square, with the 4th side open for servants to bring food. Romans do not sit at tables to eat. They recline on these couches, propped on their left elbows, leaving their right hands free for eating. Each couch can accommodate 3 people, though tonight only the family will dine: Marcus, Cornelia, young Quintus, and Julia. Reclining while eating is the privilege of citizens and free persons. Slaves eat sitting or standing, often in the kitchen, consuming the simpler food prepared for the household staff. Children traditionally sit rather than recline until they come of age, though in practice, families vary in how strictly they observe this custom. As the sun sets and the evening light fades, slaves light oil lamps throughout the house. These lamps are small clay vessels filled with olive oil, with a wick protruding from a spout. They provide dim, flickering light. Romans live with levels of illumination that we would find uncomfortably dark. The wealthy can afford many lamps, but even in prosperous households, nighttime is dim. The family gathers in the triclinium as the meal is ready. Marcus reclines on the central couch, the lectus medius, the position of honor. Cornelia takes her place on another couch, while Quintus and Julia sit on cushions near their parents. The arrangement is both comfortable and formal, maintaining the hierarchies and customs that structure Roman family life. Slaves bring water and towels for hand washing. Romans eat with their hands, so cleaning them before the meal is essential. There are no forks, and spoons are used only for liquids. Food is picked up with fingers, torn with hands, brought to the mouth directly. This is not considered crude, but perfectly normal, and elaborate rules govern proper eating etiquette. The meal begins with the gustatio, appetizers. Tonight, these include olives, soft cheese, hard-boiled eggs sliced and seasoned with garum, and small pieces of bread. Wine is served, mixed with water in the Roman fashion. The proportion varies by preference and occasion. Strong wine might be 3 parts water to 1 part wine, while weaker mixtures might be 4 or 5 to 1. As they eat, conversation flows. Marcus discusses his day, mentioning the business negotiations at the baths, the purchase of glassware, encounters with various acquaintances. Cornelia reports on household matters, the progress of weaving projects, supplies that need purchasing, minor disciplinary issues with slaves. Quintus is asked about his studies. He has been working on memorizing passages from Virgil's Aeneid, the great epic poem that is central to Roman education. He recites a few lines, and Marcus corrects his pronunciation and emphasis. Education at this level is primarily about memorization and recitation, developing the ability to quote classical literature and use it to support arguments. Julia, though younger and female, has also received some education. She can read and write, though her education focuses more on practical household skills. She mentions that she has been learning to weave more complex patterns, and her mother praises her progress. Weaving is a valued skill for Roman women, even in wealthy households where slaves do most of the actual work. A woman who can supervise textile production demonstrates competence in household management. The main course is brought out, the fish, vegetables, and pulse, arranged on serving platters. The presentation is attractive, the food smells delicious, and the family eats with appreciation. Romans value good food, and wealthy families take pride in their tables, though they generally avoid the ostentatious excess that characterized some earlier periods of Roman history. Gaius has prepared the fish expertly, grilled to the right degree of doneness, seasoned well, without overpowering the delicate flavor. The garum sauce, made from the very product that forms the basis of Marcus's wealth, adds a rich, savory depth to the vegetables. The meal is satisfying, nourishing, and pleasant. As they eat, Marcus mentions the upcoming gladiatorial games, scheduled for next month. Quintus expresses excitement. He has seen gladiatorial contests before, but never loses his enthusiasm for them. Julia is less interested, but knows that attending the games is a social obligation, an opportunity to be seen in public in the family's reserved seats in the amphitheater. Gladiatorial games are controversial. Some philosophers, particularly those influenced by Greek thought, argue that such spectacles are barbaric and degrading. But most Romans view them as legitimate entertainment, demonstrations of courage and skill, religious rituals honoring the dead through blood sacrifice. The games are immensely popular, and successful gladiators are celebrities, their images sold on pottery and lamps, their names invoked in graffiti. The conversation turns to family matters. Marcus's sister, who lives in Rome, has written a letter that arrived today. Letters travel slowly, carried by personal messengers or by travelers willing to transport correspondence. This letter has taken nearly 2 weeks to arrive, though Rome is only about 150 miles away. She reports that all is well with her family, that her husband's business prospers, that her children are growing. Such letters are important connections for families spread across the empire. Marcus reads portions aloud, and Cornelia asks questions, maintains the family network through this exchange of news and greetings. Roman families are extended networks, and maintaining these connections requires constant effort and attention. The meal continues through dessert, the fresh fruit and honey-drizzled pastries. The fruit is at its peak of ripeness, sweet and flavorful. The pastries are rich, the honey adding concentrated sweetness that Romans love. There is more wine, conversation continuing in the relaxed atmosphere of a satisfying meal among family. As the meal concludes, Marcus calls for Philippus, the educated Greek slave who manages his accounts. They discuss business matters, payments that need to be made, debts owed to the household, expenses for the upcoming month. This discussion happens in the presence of the family, for Roman households are not completely divided between business and domestic spheres. Everyone is aware of the family's financial situation, and even the children learn about money management by observing these conversations. After Philippus withdraws, the family remains in the triclinium, continuing their conversation as the evening deepens. This is one of the few times when the family is together without the immediate pressure of work or social obligations. Roman families are not typically demonstrative in their affection, a sense of shared life and mutual care that transcends the formal arrangements of Roman marriage and family structure. Cornelia mentions that she needs to visit the Temple of Venus tomorrow to make an offering. Venus is the patron goddess of Pompeii, and her temple is one of the city's most important. Cornelia has made a vow. If her daughter Julia makes a good marriage, she will offer a silver dove to the goddess. Marriage negotiations for Julia are some years away, but Cornelia is already thinking ahead, planning, making the preparations that a responsible mother must make. Marcus agrees to provide the silver for the offering, and they discuss the form it should take, the inscription it should bear. Such offerings are both religious observances and social statements, visible demonstrations of piety and wealth. The temple will display the offering with others, each tagged with the name of the donor, creating a public record of who has honored the goddess. As the evening advances, the children are dismissed to their cubicula. They say goodnight to their parents with formal courtesy, a kiss on the cheek, a respectful phrase, and withdraw. Slaves clear the remains of the meal, extinguish most of the lamps, and attend to their own evening routines. Marcus and Cornelia remain in the triclinium for a while longer, enjoying the relative coolness of the evening, discussing matters they prefer the children not to hear. They talk about Quintus's future. Should he continue academic studies, or should Marcus begin introducing him more seriously to the family business? They discuss potential marriage alliances for Julia, families that might be suitable, dowries and settlements. These are the serious concerns of Roman parents, positioning their children for success, managing family wealth across generations, maintaining and enhancing social status. The decisions they make now will shape their children's lives, determining opportunities and constraints, successes and failures. Eventually, they too retire to their separate cubicula. Roman couples of their class typically sleep apart, coming together for intimacy when desired, but otherwise maintaining separate spaces. Cornelia has her own domain, and Marcus has his, and this arrangement suits them both. As the household settles for the night, we can take stock of what daily life in Pompeii truly means. It is a life of routine and ritual, of social obligations and family duties, of business concerns and religious observances. It is a life lived largely in public, with private moments rare and treasured. It is a life structured by custom and tradition, where everyone knows their place and role, where deviation from expected patterns risks social disapproval. It is also a life of surprising sophistication. Romans have running water, sanitation systems, public baths, paved streets, a legal system, schools, libraries, theaters and amphitheaters. They have international trade networks, banking systems, insurance, and complex business organizations. Their cities are more advanced than most cities will be for the next 1,000 years. Yet it is also a life built on slavery, on the exploitation of conquered peoples, on brutal entertainments and casual violence. It is a life of remarkable inequality, where a small elite enjoys luxury while many live in poverty. It is a life where women and children have few rights, where slavery is accepted as natural, where human life is often cheap. Pompeii embodies all these contradictions, sophisticated yet brutal, cultured yet exploitative, advanced yet limited. It is a snapshot of Roman civilization at its height, a moment preserved by catastrophe, allowing us to see with unusual clarity what daily life meant in the ancient world. As the city settles into sleep, we will continue our exploration of this fascinating, complex, and ultimately doomed community. The afternoon light begins to soften as the sun moves lower over the Bay of Naples. It is now the 8th hour by Roman reckoning, what we would call mid to late afternoon, and Pompeii begins its slow transition from the bustle of commerce to the quieter rhythms of evening. The heat that pressed down on the city through the middle of the day is finally beginning to ease, and the streets take on a different character as the working day draws toward its close. Marcus Viconius Primus has spent his afternoon at the baths, as planned. Now clean and refreshed, his skin still slightly pink from the hot room and the scraping of the strigil, he makes his way home through streets that are noticeably less crowded than they were hours earlier. Many shops are beginning to close, their owners rolling down shutters or fastening wooden doors. The metal workers have banked their fires, the bakers have sold their last loaves, the thermopolia still serve a few customers, but the lunch rush is long past. The angle of the light transforms the city. Shadows stretch long across the paved streets, and the white-plastered walls of the buildings glow golden in the slanting sunlight. Mount Vesuvius, visible at the end of many streets, is silhouetted against the western sky, its familiar shape darkening as the sun passes behind it. The mountain looks peaceful, even beautiful in this light, its slopes still green with the vineyards that produce wine famous throughout the region. Marcus passes the Forum on his way home, and he sees that it too has changed its character. The intense commercial activity of morning has given way to something more leisurely. Small groups of men stand in conversation, their business concluded, now simply enjoying the cooler air and the company of friends. A few boys play a game with knucklebones near the Temple of Jupiter, their laughter echoing off the surrounding colonnade. An old man sits on the temple steps, watching the scene with the patient attention of someone with nowhere particular to be. Arriving home, Marcus finds his household preparing for the evening meal, the cena, the main meal of the day. This is when Romans eat seriously, when they entertain guests if they have any, when the day's hungers are finally satisfied. Tonight there are no guests, so the meal will be a family affair, modest by the standards of Roman entertaining, but substantial nonetheless. The family gathers in the triclinium, the dining room, which takes its name from the 3 couches arranged around a low central table. Romans do not sit to eat, they recline, propping themselves on their left elbows, leaving their right hands free for eating. This posture is considered civilized and sophisticated, distinguishing Romans from barbarians who sit upright like children. Marcus takes his place on the central couch, the place of honor. Cornelia reclines beside him, and young Quintus takes his place on one of the other couches. He is old enough now to dine with the adults in the evening, a mark of his approaching manhood. Julia eats separately with the slaves, as is proper for an unmarried girl of her age. The slaves bring out the meal in courses. First come the gustatio, appetizers, including eggs, olives, vegetables in vinegar, and small fish. Then the main courses: roasted chicken, a vegetable stew flavored with herbs and garum, bread still warm from the oven, cheese. To drink, wine mixed with water in the proper proportions. The food is simple but plentiful, seasoned with the herbs that grow so abundantly in this region: oregano, thyme, basil, garlic. They eat without utensils, using bread to scoop food and their fingers for everything else. Slaves move quietly around the room, refilling wine cups, removing empty dishes, attending to the diner's needs. The conversation is unremarkable. Quintus mentions something his teacher said. Cornelia comments on a neighbor's new slave. Marcus talks about the garum shipment he is planning. After the main courses comes the dessert: fresh fruit and honeyed cakes. Romans love sweet things, but have no sugar. They use honey for sweetness, and they prize fruit from their orchards: apples, pears, figs, grapes. The meal concludes with more wine, and Marcus lingers at the table, feeling the pleasant fullness that comes from good food and the satisfaction of a day's work completed. As the meal ends, the household slaves clear away the dishes and prepare the house for evening. Oil lamps are lit throughout the house, small clay vessels filled with olive oil, with wicks of twisted flax. They provide modest light, enough to see by, but nothing like the brilliance of modern lighting. Most Romans go to bed not long after sunset, simply because there is not enough light to do much else. But it is not quite time for sleep yet. Marcus moves to the tablinum, his office, where he keeps his accounts and business records. By lamplight, he reviews documents with Philippus, his educated slave who manages the household finances. They discuss outstanding debts, upcoming expenses, the profitability of the last garum shipment. The numbers are marked on wax tablets that can be erased and reused, and on papyrus scrolls for permanent records. Outside, the sounds of the city are changing. The daytime noise of commerce and traffic has faded, replaced by evening sounds, voices from nearby houses, dogs barking in the distance, the occasional footsteps of someone passing in the street. A flute player somewhere nearby practices his instrument, the notes floating through the warm evening air. In other households throughout Pompeii, similar scenes are unfolding. In poorer homes, the evening meal might be little more than bread and porridge, eaten quickly before bed. In wealthier homes, dinner parties are in progress, with guests reclining around tables laden with elaborate dishes, wine flowing freely, conversation and entertainment lasting late into the night. At the public baths, the evening crowd is arriving, those who prefer to bathe after work rather than in the afternoon. The bathhouses will remain open until the final hour of daylight, serving citizens who seek cleanliness and relaxation before heading home to their evening meals. The temples are quiet now, their daily rituals completed. The priests have made their offerings, the sacred fires attended, the gods are honored. Romans are not particularly devout in the way later religions will demand devotion, but they are careful about observing the proper forms. The gods must be respected, the rituals must be performed, the sacrifices must be made, not from love or fear, but from a practical understanding that maintaining good relations with divine powers is simply prudent. As true evening approaches, the streets begin to empty. Romans are not night people. Without good lighting, there is little to do after dark, and the streets can be dangerous once full darkness falls. Shops are shuttered, businesses are closed, respectable people are at home or dining at friends' houses. Those still in the streets are mostly slaves on errands, or men visiting the taverns and brothels, or the occasional thief or troublemaker taking advantage of the darkness. Marcus finishes his business with Philippus and makes his way to the atrium, where he finds Cornelia supervising the slaves as they prepare the house for night. She instructs them to extinguish unnecessary lamps. Oil is expensive, and to secure the doors. The house must be locked and barred against intruders before the household retires. Young Quintus has already withdrawn to his cubiculum, perhaps to read by lamplight, He has been studying Virgil's Aeneid and has become fascinated by the story of Rome's legendary founding. Julia is in the women's quarters with her nurse, being prepared for bed. Marcus steps out into the small peristyle, the colonnaded garden at the back of the house, to take the evening air. The garden is modest, with a few flowering plants and herbs growing around a small fountain. The sound of trickling water is soothing, and the air is perfumed with night-blooming flowers. Above, the sky is deepening from blue to purple, and the first stars are beginning to appear. He stands there for a few minutes, enjoying the peace, unaware that he is living through one of the last quiet evenings his city will ever know. Mount Vesuvius looms in the gathering darkness, invisible now, but always present, always waiting. But Marcus knows nothing of what is coming. To him, this is just another day ending, another comfortable evening in a comfortable life, in a city that seems permanent and secure. Inside, the slaves are finishing their tasks, extinguishing lamps, settling into their quarters. The household is winding down, preparing for sleep. Tomorrow will bring another day, much like this one, or so everyone believes. True darkness settles over Pompeii. The last light fades from the western sky, and the city transforms into a place of shadows and lamplight, mysterious and intimate in ways it never is during the day. Most Romans are in their homes now, and the streets belong to a different population. The watchmen, the slaves on late errands, the revelers unwilling to let the day end, and those whose business is conducted in darkness. In Marcus's house, the final preparations for night are complete. The doors are barred, the unnecessary lamps extinguished, the slaves dismissed to their quarters. The house is settling into that particular quiet that comes when a busy household finally stills. Small sounds echo in the atrium, the drip of water into the impluvium, the creak of wood cooling from the day's heat, the soft footsteps of a slave making a final round to ensure everything is secure. Marcus and Cornelia retire to their separate cubicula. Romans do not make a ritual of bedtime. There are no elaborate preparations, no special sleeping garments. Marcus simply removes his tunic and lies down on his bed in his undertunic, pulling a light woolen blanket over himself despite the warmth of the night. The small oil lamp in his room casts flickering shadows on the walls, and he watches them for a moment before reaching out to extinguish the flame, plunging his cubiculum into complete darkness. Sleep comes easily after a long day. Marcus's last conscious thoughts are mundane. Tomorrow he must visit the fullers to collect his cleaned toga. He must remember to speak to Felix about the next garum batch. He should perhaps make an offering at the Temple of Mercury, patron of merchants. Then sleep takes him, and he knows nothing more until dawn. But the city does not sleep entirely. In the poorer neighborhoods, in the insulae, the apartment buildings where the working poor live, the night is different. These buildings are crowded, noisy places, with thin walls and many occupants. Children cry, couples argue, someone coughs endlessly, footsteps echo on wooden stairs. The heat of the day lingers in these cramped spaces, making sleep difficult. Some residents give up and sit outside in the street, seeking relief in whatever slight breeze might stir. The taverns are still busy, though the character of the clientele has changed. The respectable merchants and craftsmen have gone home, replaced by harder customers, laborers spending their wages, sailors from the port, men seeking oblivion in wine. The tavern keeper continues to serve, mixing wine with water, occasionally with honey or spices, charging more as the night progresses and his customers' judgment deteriorates. In one taberna near the Forum, a dice game is in progress. Several men hunched over a table, coins scattered between them. Gambling is technically illegal, but universally practiced. The men are intent on the game, their concentration fueled by wine and the hope of winning. One man curses as he loses another throw. Another laughs and scoops up his winnings. The lamp above their table flickers, making their shadows dance on the walls. The lupanar is experiencing its busiest hours. Men enter and leave discreetly, though discretion is not particularly necessary. No one is scandalized by a visit to a brothel. The women work efficiently, moving between customers with practiced routine. On the walls of the small rooms, more graffiti appears. Names, dates, crude comments. One wall bears the inscription, "Secundus was here," as if this anonymous encounter in a rented room deserves to be recorded for posterity. The night watch makes its rounds through the city, These are magistrate slaves, tasked with keeping order in the hours of darkness. They carry torches and clubs, and they challenge anyone they encounter, demanding to know their business. Most of the time their presence is sufficient to prevent trouble, though occasionally they must break up fights or chase away thieves. The streets are dangerous after dark, and while Pompeii is relatively safe by Roman standards, no one goes out alone at night without good reason. A wealthy man being carried home in a litter from a dinner party calls out greetings to the watchman. The bearers, 4 strong slaves carrying the enclosed chair on poles, move carefully over the uneven paving stones, their way lit by a slave walking ahead with a torch. The passenger inside is drunk and happy, having spent the evening reclining at his friend's table, eating elaborate dishes and drinking excellent wine. He sings tunelessly as his bearers carry him through the dark streets, immune to the dangers that would threaten a pedestrian. At the docks, work continues. Ships do not observe Roman sleeping schedules, and cargo must be loaded and unloaded regardless of the hour. Slaves and dock workers labor by torchlight, moving amphorae and grain sacks from ships to warehouses. The ships creak at their moorings, and water laps against the hulls. The Bay of Naples is dark, except for the lights of ships at anchor and the torches along the docks. Across the bay, Naples itself glows faintly, a larger city, still awake, its lights reflecting on the water. In the bakeries, the night shift is beginning. Bread must be made in the pre-dawn hours so it will be fresh to the morning's customers. The bakers and their slaves fire the ovens, mix the dough, shape the loaves. The work is hot and exhausting, but it is steady employment. The smell of baking bread will soon drift through the streets, one of the first signs that a new day is approaching. The temples are dark and locked, but the sacred fires are tended throughout the night. Priests or temple slaves keep vigil, ensuring that the flames honoring the gods never go out. These fires have burned continuously for generations, tended with religious devotion, their extinction considered a terrible omen. The priests sit in the darkness, feeding the flames, praying or dozing, waiting for dawn. In Marcus's house, everyone sleeps. Quintus dreams of military glory. He has been reading about Augustus's campaigns, and in his adolescent imagination, he sees himself commanding legions. Julia sleeps the dreamless sleep of childhood, secure in her nurse's nearby presence. Cornelia sleeps lightly, as mothers do, half alert to any sound that might signal one of the children needing attention. The slaves sleep in their quarters, small rooms off the atrium and peristyle, or in some cases, in the shops and workshops attached to the house. They sleep on simple pallets, with fewer blankets than their owners, in spaces that offer little privacy. Philippus, the educated Greek slave, enjoys slightly better conditions, a small room of his own, a better blanket, the respect due to his abilities. But he is still a slave, still property, and he falls asleep thinking about the freedom he has been promised, wondering if Marcus will keep his word. The city sleeps fitfully, never entirely quiet. Dogs bark at shadows. A baby cries somewhere. A drunk staggers home, singing and stumbling. The watchman's footsteps echo in the empty forum. A cat prowls the streets, hunting the rats that infest every Roman city. The fountains continue their endless trickling, fed by the aqueduct that brings water from the hills. Above it all, the stars wheel slowly across the sky. The Romans know these stars, have named them, have woven myths about them. They use them for navigation, consult them for omens, admire them for their beauty. Tonight they shine with particular brightness, unobscured by any light pollution, each constellation clear and distinct. The Greeks have mapped these stars, given them names and stories, and educated Romans like Marcus have learned these names and stories, adding them to the Greek language and literature they studied in their youth. Mount Vesuvius is invisible in the darkness, just a blacker shape against the black sky. But it is there, always there, looming over the city. In its depths, pressures are building, magma is rising, gases are accumulating. Forces beyond human comprehension or control are preparing for release. But no one knows this. The mountain has been quiet for longer than anyone can remember. It is just a mountain, familiar and benign, a source of good soil and good wine, not an object of fear. The hours of darkness pass slowly. This is the dead time, the time when the world belongs to sleep and shadows, when even the busiest cities fall quiet. Pompeii breathes slowly, like a sleeping person, waiting for dawn to wake it again to life and light and motion. In his dark cubiculum, Marcus sleeps on, untroubled by dreams or premonitions. His breath is slow and even, his body relaxed. He has worked hard today, conducted his business successfully, eaten well, maintained his social obligations. He has no reason to expect that tomorrow will be anything other than another ordinary day in an ordinary life, in a city that has stood for centuries and will presumably stand for centuries more. But time is running out, though no one knows it. The peaceful night, the sleeping city, the ordinary rhythms of life, all of this is about to end. The last quiet hours of Pompeii are ticking away in darkness, and when the sun rises, it will rise on a city with only days remaining. The deepest part of night settles over Pompeii. It is now the 12th hour by Roman reckoning, the final hour of the night watch, when darkness is most complete and the world feels most remote from the concerns of day. This is the hour when only the most necessary activities continue, when even the taverns have mostly emptied, when the city rests as fully as it ever does. The moon has risen, a waning crescent providing just enough light to see shapes and shadows. Moonlight silvers the paved streets, makes the white walls of the houses glow faintly, catches the ripples in fountains and the impluvium pools in every atrium. The city in moonlight looks like a memory of itself, or perhaps like a prophecy, a place caught between existence and absence, solid yet somehow insubstantial. In this deep hour, Pompeii reveals aspects of itself that daylight conceals. The city is old, not as old as Rome itself, but old enough. It was here before the Romans came, settled by people whose names are now mostly forgotten. It has been destroyed by earthquake and rebuilt. It has seen wars, plagues, fires, floods. It has survived everything that has threatened it, and its citizens sleep tonight, confident that it will continue to survive. Because survival is what cities do. They endure, they persist, they outlast the individual lives of their inhabitants. The night watchmen continue their rounds, but with less vigilance now. The dangerous hours have passed. The drunks have made it home, or collapsed somewhere to sleep it off. The thieves have either succeeded or given up. The streets belong to the watchmen, and to the cats and dogs that patrol territories invisible to human eyes. One watchman pauses at a street corner, setting down his torch in a holder. He is tired, his shift has been long, and dawn seems far away. He thinks about his own small room, his thin mattress, the few hours of sleep he will get before his master gives him his next assignment. He is a slave, like most of the watchmen, but he considers himself fortunate. He has skills, responsibilities, a certain status within the household. Other slaves have it worse, the ones who work in the mines, or row the galleys, or labor in the fields. His life is not easy, but it could be much harder. In the bakeries, the work continues. The ovens are hot now, and the first loaves are baking. The smell of bread is starting to permeate the streets near the bakeries, that warm, yeasty smell that means morning is approaching, even though the sky is still dark. The bakers work steadily, shaping dough, loading the ovens, removing finished loaves. They are flour-dusted and sweat-soaked, and they still have hours of work ahead of them, but they take pride in their craft. Good bread is essential to Roman life. At the gladiatorial barracks, Pompeii has a small amphitheater and maintains a modest troop of gladiators. The fighters sleep the sleep of men who live with constant danger. Some are slaves, forced into this bloody profession. Others are free men who have chosen it, attracted by the glory and the possibility of wealth. A few are criminals, sentenced to fight as punishment. They sleep in cells, guarded, their weapons locked away, their futures uncertain. In a few days, there will be games at the amphitheater, and some of them will fight, and some may die, and the crowd will cheer or jeer, depending on how well they perform. But tonight they simply sleep, dreaming whatever dreams such men dream. Perhaps they dream of victory, of the crowd's roar, of the prize money. Perhaps they dream of freedom, of lives without violence. Perhaps they dream of nothing at all, their minds too exhausted by training and fear to produce coherent dreams. In the brothel, the last customers have finally left. The women clean themselves, tend to small injuries or discomforts, count their meager earnings. Some are silent and exhausted. Others chat quietly, finding comfort in companionship. One woman, a Greek slave who was beautiful once and still retains traces of that beauty, stares at the graffiti-covered walls and thinks about how she came to this place, this life. The path from her childhood in Athens to this small room in a Pompeian brothel is long and painful, and she tries not to think about it. But in these quiet hours, memories intrude. The woman who runs the lupanar, herself a former prostitute, now too old for the work, but managing the business for its owner, makes her final rounds, ensuring the rooms are ready for tomorrow, checking that everything is secure. She is efficient and unsentimental, running this establishment like any other business, which is what it is. She knows every woman who works here, knows their stories, knows what they need to survive. She is not kind exactly, but she is fair by the standards of her profession, and she ensures that the women are fed, clothed, and protected from the worst abuses. In Marcus's house, the silence is profound. The slaves sleep deeply, exhausted from their day's labors. The family sleeps the comfortable sleep of the well-fed and secure. Only one lamp burns in the entire house, the lamp in the lararium, the household shrine, which is kept lit throughout the night to honor the protective spirits of the home. Its tiny flame flickers in some unfelt draught, casting minute shadows on the painted images of the household gods. Cornelia stirs in her sleep, half waking, then settling again. Some dream troubled her briefly, but it fades before she can grasp it, and she sinks back into unconsciousness. In his cubiculum, Marcus is utterly still, breathing slowly, deep in dreamless sleep. Quintus has kicked off his blanket. Even at night, the August heat is oppressive, and sleeps sprawled in the ungraceful posture of adolescence. Julia sleeps curled up, secure in the protective circle of her nurse's arm. Throughout the city, thousands of people sleep in thousands of rooms, each with their own dreams and worries and hopes, each living their own small dramas, unaware that they are all part of a larger story that is approaching its climax. The slave dreams of freedom. The merchant dreams of profit. The wife dreams of security. The child dreams of nothing in particular, just the formless images of a developing mind. And in the houses of the wealthy, dinner parties are finally ending. The guests make their farewells, calling for their litters or their torch-bearing slaves to light their way home. The hosts see them off, then turn to survey the wreckage of the feast, the tables littered with dishes, the floors messy with dropped food, wine spills, trampled flowers. The slaves begin the long process of cleaning up, carrying dishes to the kitchen, sweeping the floors, emptying the chamber pots that guests have used. It will be hours before they can sleep. The Bay of Naples is calm tonight, the water barely moving, just a gentle rise and fall like breathing. Ships sit at anchor, dark shapes on dark water. Somewhere out on the bay, a fishing boat is setting out for the night's work. Certain fish are easier to catch at night, and these fishermen know the waters intimately, can navigate by starlight and by the feel of the wind. They row steadily, their oars dipping in rhythm, making for their fishing grounds, while the city sleeps behind them. Mount Vesuvius looms invisible in the darkness, a presence felt more than seen. If anyone were watching, but no one is, they might notice a faint glow near the summit, a heat shimmer in the air, small tremors in the ground. But these signs are subtle, easily missed, easily explained away. And who watches a mountain in the middle of the night? Who thinks about the earth beneath their feet when there are more immediate concerns? Tomorrow's work, tomorrow's meals, tomorrow's 100 small necessities. The stars continue their slow wheel across the sky. Time passes, as it always does, indifferent to human hopes and fears. The deep night slowly, imperceptibly, begins to yield to the earliest hints of dawn. The darkness is not yet breaking, but it has perhaps stopped deepening. The nadir has passed. The world is beginning its slow turn back toward light. In an hour or two, roosters will begin to crow. Bakers will bring out their first loaves. Slaves will begin to stir, starting their day's work. The fountains will reflect the first grey light of approaching dawn. The city will wake and stretch and begin again its daily routines, as it has for centuries, as everyone assumes it will for centuries to come. But for now, in this last deep hour of night, Pompeii rests. The streets are empty and silent. The houses are dark and still. The bay is calm. The mountain is quiet. Everything is peaceful. Everything is ordinary. Everything is as it has always been. And in this peace, in this ordinariness, in this deep quiet of the night, the city sleeps on, unaware that these are its final hours of innocence, that the world it knows is about to end, that everything it takes for granted, the streets, the houses, the people, the ordinary rhythms of daily life, will soon be buried under ash and pumice, preserved in death for a future that will look back on these moments with knowledge the people living them do not possess. But knowledge of the future does not exist in this moment. There is only the present, the sleeping city, the quiet night, the turning stars, the waiting mountain. There is only now, and now is peaceful, and the sleepers sleep on, dreaming their dreams, living their last hours of normal life, before everything changes forever. The deep night holds Pompeii gently, like a mother holds a sleeping child, protecting it for these final hours before dawn arrives, and the last few days of the city's existence begin to unfold.